All right, what's up, Star City Blood Bowl League coaches, and welcome to the Season 8 Round 4 update. We'll go through what happened this last round a little bit, see where people moved up and down the standings, and what the matchups look like for the next week. We'll also look at the league leaders for various different statistics. So, I guess jumping into this, we'll look at the Blue Ridge Division first. So the main changes here. So the Southeast Purple Haze, they maintain their perfect record of 4 wins, no draws, no losses. The New River Nightcrawlers hold on to second place with a win last week. And then we had 2 teams move up. The Kansas City Dark Elf team moved up from fourth to third, and the Northeast Reapers moved up from their fifth place location up into fourth, which is the last current playoff spot for the Blue Ridge Division. The big fallers right now, the Malice Powboys received their first loss last round, and they dropped out of playoff contention through these 4 weeks down to the fifth place spot. And then we had no other changes in the rankings for the other 5 teams in the Blue Ridge Division. Looking at the Mill Mountain Division, we had a bunch of movers up and down this time. So the Blackwater Prowlers moved up into the top spot for the Mill Mountain Division. They overtook the Passing Pathogens and dropped them out of their perfect record. So they're currently holding on to first place with 3 wins and 1 draw. Next up, the Taliban Valley Titans also moved up. They're into the second place spot. They're also at 3 wins, 1 draw. And then we have the Passing Pathogens, who were, taking the first place spot, had a perfect record of 3 wins and no losses, and they have moved down into the third place position. And we have the Thunder Mountain Rampage, who have snuck from being outside the playoff contention into the fourth place slot after getting a win last week. The Black Pyramid Sentinels fell out of the playoff contention. And the other big mover, we had the Stinky Skinks pick up their first win, and that was enough to project them all the way from the 10th place spot up to the 7th place spot with that win there. So hopefully they can continue that trend and move up in the rankings. So that is what we have for division so far. We can kind of look a little bit at some of the statistics. So as far as net touchdowns go, right now that category in the Blue Ridge Division is being held by the Southeast Purple Haze at a +7. And then net casualties, let's see, what do we got here? We got a +3. There's a +9. So the Malice Powboys with a +9 net casualties. So they're dealing out some damage and not taking many injuries in return. Passing right now, the Southeast Purple Haze have 9 total completions, which is significantly more than the next best person. And looking at fouls, it looks like right now the District Decimators have a +15 foul given to receive ratio, so that's really good. So there we go. Now looking at the Mill Mountain Division, we're looking at net touchdowns. Right now it's a +7. It looks like that's the Passing Pathogens and the Blackwater Prowlers both have a +7 net touchdowns. As far as casualties go, the Prowlers have a +10, but the Thunder Mountain Rampage lead that with a +13, giving out 17 casualties and only receiving 4. Passing wise, we got 3 teams tied with 4 completions. That is the Taliban Valley Titans, the Box Art Barons, and the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings. All have 4 completions thus far this season. No interceptions across the entire league. And looking at fouls, there aren't very many fouls in this division, but it is the Stinky Skinks who have an 8-0 foul ratio. Now we're going to look at the upcoming matchups. So right now for round 5 coming up, we have the Malice Powboys against the Death Dodgers. So the Powboys lost their last match, and the Death Dodgers are looking for their first win. So the Powboys are going to be looking to bounce back from their first loss of the season, while as the Death Dodgers are going to be looking for their first win of the season. Looking at their offensive capabilities. Right now, it looks like the Cowboys have a little bit more touchdowns scored, and they are playing better defense. They're hurting more people, they are resisting getting injured, and they're even fouling a little bit more. So this is pretty heavily weighted towards the performance of the Cowboys versus that of the Death Dodgers. So looking at the Cowboys roster, we have a full healthy four blitzers, three biggins, four biggins, linemen, so a full healthy 12-man roster for the Orcs. A little bit of a busted up biggin right there. Um, he may be worth firing and hiring a new one. He's got 4 SPP. I would probably random, see if you got something really good. If you didn't, I'd probably ditch him and just hire a brand new biggin blocker if that was me. Um, but the rest of these players look relatively healthy. Um, looks like we got 2 guard, a bunch of block, a couple of block big uns, which is good, and then the guard troll. So that's what the Cowboys have: 1290 versus 1185. So roughly 100K inducements here. The Necromantic Core are healthy. No one to skill up there. And they have 100K in the bank, 2 rerolls. So I'm assuming they're saving up for that third reroll thereafter. As far as inducements goes, what would you take for 100K? Star players, there's probably not much. Sylvania and Spotlight really struggle, I think, when it comes to available inducements. They could use a keg. That might not be too bad, a keg or two. They could also use a Wandering Apothecary or a Necromancer, I guess. Infamous coaching staff. The player agent is pretty good because he gives pro to people. Joseph Bugman might not be a bad pick at all. He's a pretty good player, and he gives pretty much the benefits of kegs at the same time. I wouldn't really do that. You're not really expecting any fouls. I would almost be kind of tempted to take Joseph Bugman in this next match if I was the Death Dodgers. All right, so my prediction here, I think this one's still going to be really tough for the Death Dodgers to come back from unless they get a hold of some of these Orcs with their claws and start to remove them. I'm going to give this one 2-1 to the Cowboys for this coming round. Looking at the next matchup, this is a rematch, I think, of last season's semifinal between the Kansas City Dark Elves and the Southeast Purple Haze. The Kansas City Dark Elves were able to pull this one out last time, but it's going to be the Purple Haze that are going to have the inducements, I think, coming into this one and currently leading the league in a number of categories. So right now we have the best offensive team, I believe, with the Purple Haze playing against the best defensive team we have of the Kansas City Dark Elves. So it should be a really close matchup. The Dark Elves have been able to resist having any significant injuries, but it is the Purple Haze that have been putting people in the casualty box throughout the season, which makes sense because you're probably not punching a bunch. We got an 11th man coming on, so 70K. That's going to put them up to 1320. 155K in the bank. So they could hire a new lineman. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They may just want to hire a lineman, but they could save that for coming up with, a runner, an assassin. An assassin might not be a bad play just for this round, just so you could stab some block dodge Skaven. That'll help take them down, but they have plenty of tackles, so probably not needed. Also, the star of the show, Sneak Scuttle Spike's going to be sitting on the bench as he heals his wounds from the last round. This might leave room for Hackflim to come in, but I don't know if they have enough cash for that. I think they're going to have to settle for maybe a mercenary gutter runner if they're going to try and bring a gutter runner on the roster. With probably just one skill, right? So he probably would take block, but he could take 2 heads. It's hard to say, to try and mimic some of the capabilities of Sneak. Flick's Lateral's been coming up big this season for the Southeast Purple Haze with block, extra arms, 2 heads, tackle, dodge, and on his way to another skill up in the not too distant future. Gnaw Toe Cutter, Mighty Blow Tackle Horns. That's going to be big to try and stop the Dark Elves if they can get a hold of some of them. I'm assuming they're probably saving for Claws. That's probably a good one to grab. 2 Wrestle Skaven Line Rats and a Skaven clan rat there. I think he's one short of leveling up. Two-headed goblin. Troll that is at a skill. What would you get? Guard may be useful. Maybe he's saving for a block. I'd almost consider taking a mutation on the troll as well. Might be worth doing. Or depending on if they're throwing teammating a lot, um, maybe take strong arm. But it's probably something where I don't know. Brawler's probably not worth it. Guard would be good and useful to help support some of the clan rats on the line. Um, hmm. I mean, guard is hard to pass up. That may be worth grabbing first. You could just grab like claws or something to try and claw a couple um, dark elves, but I assume we'll see some use of projectile vomit this week. Sitting on 265 treasury, so plenty of money in the bank. They may be wanting to keep their treasury low because they'll have a couple come back very soon. But who's going to win this one? I actually think this one's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be 2-2. I think they're both going to score pretty well. If anything, the missing of Sneak Scuttle Spike and the Mercenary Gutter Runner probably won't be enough to come back if it comes that way. So it may be the Kansas City Dark Elves that actually come away with this one and give the Purple Haze their first loss of the season. But I do think that it's going to be a draw. I'm going to say 2-2 right now. All right, the next matchup, the New River Nightcrawlers against the Northeast Reapers. So this is probably one of the more difficult matchups for the Nightcrawlers since the season has begun. So the Nightcrawlers have 4 healthy vampires and then 6 thralls. So they're going to be getting a journeyman worth 40k that bumps them up to 1230. They do have enough money to either get a 5th reroll or a 5th vampire. That may be something they grab, but right now I think their team value is very close to the Northeast Purple Haze, who will be missing their 12th player. So 11 on 11 for this upcoming match. Obviously, there's 4 Mighty Blow for the Undead and some block dodge players, and the Vampires don't have tackle. So that's going to be really tough to hopefully get some pals to knock them down and injure them, since they don't have regen that'll help keep them off the field. But the good thing is the undead do not have the foul pieces available right now to go at really fouling any of the vampires and such, because they can't quite yet afford to lose some players. Now looking at, they have 3 rerolls versus the 4 for the undead. Or I'm sorry, for the vampires. Right now, the vampires are playing a little bit better offense, better defense, hurting more players, and the only thing is they're getting hurt a little more. They are fouling more than the Reapers are. You know, despite, I think, that record, I think that this is likely going to be either a draw or a loss for the Nightcrawlers. It may be their first loss of the season as well. I'm going to say this one's going to end up 2-1 with the Reapers taking this one this round. The 4th matchup in the Blue Ridge Division is the Marlin Bay Marauders, who are looking for their first win, as well as the District Decimators. So one of them may come away with a win. It may end up in a draw. One of the things that I think the Marlin Bay Marauders are still looking for is their first touchdown of the year, sitting at a 0 average. While as the District Decimators have kind of failed to get in there as well. Both of them are playing pretty comparatively solid defense, hurting people on an equal level. The Marlin Bay Marauders are obviously resisting getting injured because of the ogres are full of snotlings that are getting busted up. But the District Decimators are pumping out one of the higher dirty play ratios so far, so they're not afraid of fouling. They'll foul pretty constantly. And so if those go their way, then they may find themselves sitting pretty good. 6 ogres, a bunch of noblars, 2 rerolls, 95k, so they're still saving up for that 3rd reroll. So that is one thing that is kind of hurting the ogres a little bit, is their reroll availability. And if things go bad, they can run out of those very quickly. And then looking at here, it looks like we finally have 4 chosen blockers for the Marlin Bay Marauders. It's the first time they are a healthy um, chosen team right now. Exactly 0 gold, 3 rerolls. What do they got? A couple blocks. So this is still going to be a tough matchup for the Marlin Bay Marauders to win up front on the line against the Ogres. The main thing is they just need to try and focus on spreading the Ogres out because they're less effective when they're spread around the field. Um, and try and just take advantage of that little bit better speed that you have over both the Noblars and the Ogres to just outpace them, and then you can maybe distance yourself enough away that the Ogres won't be able to catch you. What do I think will happen in this one? I think this one's going to be a draw. I do think the Marlin Bay Marauders are going to get their first score, but I think this is going to be a 1-1 game with both of these teams coming away with a draw. Next up, we have the Oathbreakers, Chaos Dwarves against Khorne. Both of these teams, looking at them offensively, we have a little bit better offense being played by Corned Beef, but pretty much similar. Exactly the same defensive abilities, pretty much similar brutality, pretty much the same resistance, just a little bit more foul attempts taken by Corned Beef, but pretty much the exact same team going at each other here. Almost the exact same team value as well. So 3 guard, block, mighty blow, sure hands block against a bunch of block here as well. Frenzy. So this is going to be a tough one, I think, for Chaos Dwarves, although they still have, lots of block, tackle, guard. I mean, tackle's not going to be super effective. There is one of the Beastagores, what are they called? Corn gores that have dodge, but tackle's relatively going to be pretty ineffective. They are losing the strength battle up front, and so the one thing that'll be a saving grace is to make sure that the Chaos Dwarves position their guard in such a way that it may put the Khorne into a frenzy trap when they do their second follow-up block, and hope for a push or a boat down or something to stop frenzy from moving around, and that'll really stop the momentum of Khorne to be able to gain an advantage by making holes for their offensive abilities. As far as who I think will win this one, I think this one's going to go to the Chaos Dwarves. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 with the Chaos Dwarves coming away with the victory on this one. Looking at the passing pathogens against the Talbine Valley Titans, this is a redraft on redraft matchup. We got the 1275 team value of the Valley Titans, a really busted up Skaven team coming into this one. Missing Influenza, which is their star gutter runner. Really, they're pretty much a mostly skillless Skaven team at this point, with a Rat Ogre, missing gutter Tetanus, their gutter runner. So 25k, they're down to 11 players, 1120 versus 1275. So that's 150k. Are they sitting at 12 guys? Oh, they're going to have a journeyman. So it's going to be more like 225. I think that might be just enough if they wanted to grab. I can't remember exactly how much Hackflim is, but I think he's 210. He is 210. That may be just enough for them to take Hackflim if they wanted to on this Skaven team to try and turn an advantage. If they can't afford them, and I didn't do the math right, then Glart Smash Rip is my pick, who I think is kind of an underutilized, underrated player who has block, claws, grab, juggernaut, and stand firm. And then that one-time ability which lets him use frenzy. And so I think that this is a player that can come in and make some damage against the humans. And who do I think will win this one? I think this one's going to go to the Titans. I think the Titans are way overskilled compared to the Skaven at this point. The Skaven have had some really bad deaths, some really beat up players. They're starting to save to obviously pump up some of these players. And so I think it's only going to get worse from here for the Skaven. Moving forward. So what do I think will happen here? I think with Albert, what's his name? Albert Rothman in play, he's leading, I think he's leading the league or second in the league for casualties. He's going to be a big piece that's going to be doing some damage to some Skaven. I think this is going to be a 2 or even a 3-0 pounding against the passing pathogens, where I think the Titans are just too much of a match, and it's going to be over pretty quickly for the pathogens moving forward. Next up, we have the Black Pyramid Sentinels, who had a shocker loss against the Stinky Skinks, against the Blackwater Prowlers, the current leader of the Mill Mountain Division. Very skilled up Tomb Kings team, looking pretty good so far. Lots of Mighty Blow guard, not much block. That's really where they're weak right now. Their Tomb Guardians are missing block, so those 1 and 9s could definitely put them down. Now we're looking at here. Lots of block, lots of dodge, block, dodge, claws. So this could be doing some work if the some guard, lots of guard. So I mean, really the Necro team is a better built team right now, sitting at 1400. What are we against here? 1090. So almost 300k in inducements. That should be enough for them to take Wilhelm, and they'll need Wilhelm, I think, in order to win this game. So I would be pumping out Wilhelm, Cheney, 220k. He's got wrestle, claws. Having a werewolf with claws to combat, say, the flesh golem, getting some good blocks on them, taking them off the field, or taking off even some of the takedown ability of the Blackwater Prowlers, block dodge werewolves, to be able to wrestle them to the ground is going to be very, very useful. The same with the Wraiths. You'll be able to take them down to the ground with Wilhelm's ability if you ended up rolling a both down. He is strength 4, so he's going to be tough to bring down. I do think he's the move. I don't know who else you would take that would be better, to be honest. So yeah, I'm picking Wilhelm as the go-to inducement for this match. And like I said, hopefully they have enough money for that, and that should help balance things out a little bit. I still think this is a win for the Prowlers. I'm going to give it to them 2-1. I think the Sentinels will be able to get in. They'll be able to do some damage, but it won't quite be enough. So Prowlers are going to keep holding on to that top spot with a win this week, in my opinion. Next up, Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings against the Stinky Skinks. And the Skinks are coming off high from a win recently, a shocker win at that. And so I think that they're kind of riding high right now. They did lose lots of guys. I mean, they literally only have 7 players on their field right now. They do have 200K in the bank. I'm not sure why they're not buying 2 more Saurus. I would I'd spend this 200K, buy 2 more Saurus, take on the rest in Journeyman. With 2 Journeyman Skinks, and then you got, like I said, a Croxigore, 6 Saurus blockers, and you'll be sitting much better than you currently are. Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings got beat up pretty bad against the Thunder Mountain Rampage this week, so they're missing both their Valkyries and one of their Norse linemen. So their ball carrying ability is a little bit restricted in this one because they're going to be a little bit slower. But they're going to be sitting up on a bunch of Journeymen too, so they are 50K a piece, so it's 150. Gosh, these team values are low. 790 plus 150. That's 940 for the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings. The Stinky Skinks are at 850. Let's say they go 850. Let's say they buy those 2. So 1010. 1010 plus 60 plus 60. So they're at 1130 is my guess. And I forget what I said here. 1130. So 190K in inducements for the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings. What would they take? There is that player Ivar, who I think is very good. I don't remember how much he is. They could take Hackflim. Oh, they can't take Ivar because they're favored of. How much are they getting? 190. Just not enough to get. Now, I will say it might be worth them taking Withergrasp. Withergrasp, although he's not as good as he used to be, he is agility 4 and he used to be 3. He does have 2 heads, which does make him agility 3 when he's dodging. He might be worth taking just to try and get another ball carrier. But it's going to be tough for them. I don't know if this is going to be an easy one to overcome. Papa Skullbones might be good to see about getting some mutations on some characters. Be cool to see an All Foreigner get something good. Pro's not super needed on a team that has pretty much all block. You could get a wizard. A wizard would be pretty good to try and balance things out. I'd probably just take the hireling sports wizard for a fireball. Um, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I think this one's a tough one. I'd probably take Withergrasp just because I would want to. I don't even know if he's the best pick. They're just 5K short of Glart, which I think is the key, or he would be a great addition to help take down some Saurus. Um, but this is going to be a tough one for the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings. I think this is actually a really close matchup in as far as the team value and then offsetting some of the coach skill. I think this one's going to be 2-1 with the. Oh gosh, if they buy the two Saurus, I'll give the win to the Stinky Skinks. If for some reason they don't, and they forget or something like that, I'm gonna give it to the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings if they just fill up on Journeyman. So I'm gonna say 2-1 only if the Skinks grab the Saurus. If they don't, I'm gonna give it 2-1 to the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings. Next up, the Midnight Maulers, who have lost their third match this round. They're finishing up in last place of the Mill Mountain Division right now against the Thunder Mountain Rampage, who are coming off high from a win against the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings and trying to continue that. The Mountain Rampage are playing good offense. They're playing great defense. Probably the most brutal team we have in the league right now as far as casualties caused against versus against. Resistance wise, resisting neither of these teams foul ever, I guess, so far. So kind of looking at these teams, what do we got? We got 4 blockers, 6 linemen, and a Minotaur. Does the Minotaur have claws? He does not. No claws on the team. Very little block. The chosen blockers are not skilled up yet, so it's going to be a tough one so far in what I'm seeing against a 4 guard. Lots of block. Are they needing a 12th? So they're going to have to pick up a 70K bump, so that's 1290. So 1290 minus 1170, 120K in inducements. What do you take? I think you take Papa Skullbones. Papa Skullbones. What else could you take? You don't need a mercenary. Papa Skullbones is 80. Do you take a chainsaw? You can't. 120K is just not enough. Just not enough. I would probably take. You could take 2 kegs. Team mascot. Yeah, team mascot. So I would probably take Papa Skullbones and a team mascot. That's 120K. Gives you a chance at a reroll at each half. Saves a reroll for you. Plus gives you those mutations that may allow you to get claws or bless one of those players with a killer that'll be able to take out some dwarves. As far as what I think will happen in this game, I think this is a Thunder Mountain Rampage victory. I think it's going to be 2-0 with the Rampage over the Maulers. And our last game of the week that we're going to talk about is the Box Art Barons and the Salt Life. Imperial Nobility, they have had a couple losses recently. A couple good players get beat up. But right now they're only missing a couple linemen. They're going to come in with all their positionals pretty healthy. And they are sitting on 2 rerolls. They're going to get 2 journeymen, so an extra 90K to that, right? So that is, what is there? 1070 plus 90 is 1160. So they'll be sitting at 1160. The Corn, Salt Life, they're missing a Corn Gore with guard. That'll hurt them a little bit. Still not working on able to skill up. We did have the Blood Spawn score a touchdown this season, which was pretty nice. We had the Juggernaut and Break Tackle Blood Spawn score. They are also going to need a 50K. So it is 1160 versus 1160. So nobody's going to get inducements. So who's going to win? Oof. Guard. Well, that's going to be tough with the stand firm. The stand firm's definitely going to make things different because the one thing that, Gerard has the advantage of is he can stand firm to prevent good blocks or to get pushed out of the way, but he can also not use stand firm to put blood seekers in odd positions, uphill blocks, or any of the frenzy pieces into bad blocks. So since those skills are optional, I think Gerard's going to really want to take advantage of that to come across on the corn. The one thing that's going to hurt a lot is this blood spawn with Juggernaut. And the corn gore with Juggernaut's going to be able to push straight through any kind of stand firm and start to move pieces around. Who do I think will win this one? I think this one's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a 1-1. Um, Maybe a slight edge to the Box Art Barons here, just based on their rosters alone. But I think it's going to end up being a draw on the round. All right, so looking at the honors right now, the highest team value team right now is a Blackwater Prowler sitting at 1,400 team value. Most fame, we got 3 teams with 6 fame. That's the Purple Haze, Kansas City, and the Passing Pathogens. Most experienced, right now we have our 4 redraft teams and the Blackwater Prowlers at 67 experience gains so far this season. Best performance, Purple Haze lead that with a 44-point performance score. Most scorer is the Purple Haze with 10 touchdowns scored. Best defense, we got 4 teams that have only allowed 2 touchdowns so far this season. That is the Prowlers, the Passing Pathogens, New River Nightcrawlers, and the Kansas City. Most beast is right now being led by the Thunder Mountain Rampage with 17 casualties caused. Most injured, right now the Fuzzy Teeth Fingerlings have been getting beat up more than a Noblar at this point with 15 injuries. So that's some bad luck of dice, really. I mean, their season has been just kind of riddled with injuries constantly. Most deadly right now, the Black Pyramid Sentinels have killed 5 players thanks to some dead skinks. Most dirty player right now, District Decimator, 17 fouls. Bunch of people have been sent off twice. Most completions right now goes to the Southeast Purple Haze with 4. The best stunty team is the District Decimators. And then the best run so far is going to the Purple Haze, who have won 4 matches straight. Looking at player value, right now we have 2 players, both on the Southeast Purple Haze, that are rocking 205K that are not big guys. The Bloodspawn Bradley Death Guard Hawken is the most valued big guy right now at 200K. We have really no skilled up players for the most part on most valued stunty, but it's an unskilled chameleon skink that leads the way so far. Most experienced. So this is right now, Flix Lateral has gained 24 SPP, Elizabeth Bathroyd 23, and Sneak Scuttle Spike at 21. Manfred Behrend has have 20, and Lucian von Wigglebutt at 17. Best performance right now is Flix Lateral with 15 points. Most scorer goes to Sneak Scuttle Spike with 7 touchdowns. Most beast, Albert Rothman and Angus Grudgebear, both tied for the best, most casualties so far, and that is at 6 apiece. Most injured, this goes to Mort with the District Decimators, who's been hurt 3 times. And Lenny Line Rider Curran for the Salt Life has also been injured 3 times. Most MVP goes to Dongo and Keorthak with the Midnight Maulers. And then most dirty play goes to King Julian of the District Decimators with 8 fouls so far. And then most completions is Flix Lateral with 9 so far. So that is our league leaders through round 4. Good luck in everybody's round 5. I hope to be back with another guest for the next update. But hopefully everybody has fun this week. This round starts on April 30th and goes through May 13th. So I see that there's about half the games already scheduled. So try and get those others on the schedule so people can stop by and plan to cheer on or cheer against your team. So with that, everybody have a good Saturday and good luck in the next round. And yeah, hope you roll lots of ones. Everybody have a good one. Bye-bye.